Passing through the veil of mystery, seeking answers no one is brave to ask. This is Bound to Truth.
Hey everybody, welcome to Bound to Truth. It is Chris Lopez and Jonathan Hershey here today. Hope everyone's in a great day and a great Sunday. But before we begin on part three of Who is the Devil, it's got some depth stuff. John says he's got some surprises he's going to share. I want to share first how you can reach us, like I said before. Comments, questions, answers, or no, that made sense. Insults, all that stuff. Boundtruth34 at gmail.com, as well as we're on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, no, not Instagram, Apple, Amazon. What else? Buzzsprouts. Yes, all those different platforms. I'm not sure why I haven't got an Instagram yet. Um, yeah,
We're
John.
just too old.
Yeah. Oh, TikTok as well too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the whole thing with Instagram is. Maybe you gotta
It's what the
convince.
young cats use because you know what's crazy is I was talking to one of my nieces
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw your thing on Facebook." She's like, "Oh, I still have a Facebook?" I was like, "What do you mean by that?" She's like, "Yeah, nobody uses Facebook anymore." I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, kids, only old people use Facebook." I was like, "What the fuck? Doesn't everybody use it?" Apparently not.
You know what? It's funny because I think you're probably right. God, we're
I heard that MySpace is making a comeback. I've been seeing a lot of people with MySpace links in their profiles now.
really.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well,
I didn't
anyway,
even know if it was still around, honestly.
yeah, I thought it was a little ancient dinosaur. It looks like it's coming back around, just like those old Harleys, man. But
Yep.
anyways,
Just not the Sportster.
maybe we'll be on Instagram and maybe MySpace if they're making a strong comeback. So anyway, please reach out to us. Please send us your thoughts and so forth. When we guest on the show, we would love that and have you invite on. Again, the platform is yours. But before we begin on this Who is the Devil Part 3, the Apocalypse of Adam, I want to say, brother, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to your
Thank
wife.
you.
And it was a great party yesterday. I think I actually counted because I'm OCD. I had 12 tacos.
Yeah, there was a lot of tacos.
It was a lot of tacos, and when John had me go out to like, hey, I need some tequila, give me the two big bottles. I'm like, sure. In my mind, I was thinking whiskey. I don't know how that happened. I didn't check it, and so I told John. John's like, I'll pay you for it. I'm like, okay, sure. And it ended up it was a wrong freaking thing because I didn't look back and I was confident I had the right information. And so I said, well, happy birthday, man. You got free whiskey.
I'd say confidence is key, but it was not in this current
No,
situation.
no, it was definitely jumping off the cliff, hoping to land on your feet without a parachute. It was a
Yeah, he
bad.
landed directly on his dick.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no. And your chickens were awesome. I got to tell you this, you had the most friendlier chickens than I do. That was a lot of fun. That was awesome. And yeah, man, it was a great party and so forth. And also a little shout out to Ivy. Great conversation we had yesterday. It was awesome. I'm gonna pressure you to get on the show now because even though I said I wasn't, now I'm going to. So I'm gonna call you out.
Yeah, let's do it.
I
Call her
mean,
out.
I mean that in love. I do mean that in love.
Ivysaur.
So before we get into the whole apocalypse of Adam with Who's the Devil Part 3, John, you mentioned something too. I want to jump a little to, it is a funny, I won't say funny. Well, Pope Francis died the day after
Yep.
Easter, the day
I
after
wouldn't call that funny.
the day after resurrection, which was kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of the Pope.
So let's be
Yeah.
honest with here.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're a few days past Easter because I was waiting for him to come back from the dead, just on the off chance.
Well, so there's some interesting stuff. So, John, you shared with me regarding some footage that came
Who
out. Yeah.
is ready for the anti-pope? That's what I want to know. Who is ready for the black pope? Because apparently he's on the way.
But what did you see in the video? You said you were
A
something.
lot of weird things. There was this whole ceremony that was going on with these people in white cloaks. It was very similar to what you would see the unfortunate KKK members wearing, except for it wasn't pointy hats. It was like the Star Wars snow trooper head cloak with the white, pure white robe, a little
Yeah.
bit of gold accent on it, gold emblem on the side with an upside down cross on it.
So, okay.
And there was hundreds of them wearing this, carrying, I believe it was a holy relic towards the Pope's burial ground or something. I didn't really pay too much attention to it because my brain was like, those are upside down crosses. And some people were like, oh no, the image is inverted. No, it's not.
No, no.
It would just,
The
it's not upside down cross is a different, it's not going to change. It's going to look the same. A
right,
regular cross is going to look upright on a camera. It's not going to look upside down
right. And
because
when
the entire picture would be upside down, including the people.
no, correct. And when you mentioned that to me, it really clicked in my mind regarding the prophecy of Saint Malachi, and I'm sure you know
Yeah.
what that is.
Hmm.
And Saint Malachi talked about the last pope. And what was interesting is supposedly the last pope is supposed to be the name of Peter the Great or Peter.
Yeah.
And when I told John when he talked about the upside down crosses, I was like, dude, Peter died upside down on a cross
Yeah.
because he says, I'm not worthy to die like my Lord.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was kind of blown away. It's almost like even though they haven't had the conclave yet, it was almost like predetermined in a symbolistic way that people don't know about the prophecy, which I know a lot of people don't, especially those who even Catholics don't know about the prophecy, right?
Yeah.
And so it was almost like a predestined thing that's going to happen. Which, hey, if I'm wrong, if we're wrong, okay, but if we're right, holy shit.
Yeah.
No, no pun intended. Oh, by the way, before we begin, I did see the movie The Conclave. I don't know if you heard that
Yeah.
movie with Ralph Fiennes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I encourage people to see that. That is one mind blowing
I
movie.
haven't seen it yet,
It's
but it looked good.
I'll tell you this, it is down to the bone to how the politics behind it happened and so forth, but the ending is a huge shocker, dude. You're gonna be kind of blown away, you know, type of thing. And it's funny because that movie came out late last year and the Pope died. Now we have a conclave going on, but the politics behind it is very, very interesting. But
I know.
anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts. So anybody out there, take a look and see those upside down crosses and see if we're kind of right. If the good old Peter the Great, Dark Pope comes out, you know. Oh, another movie I like too is Watch the Order with Heath Ledger. God
Mm.
rest his soul. That's a great movie. And regarding about certain sects of the priesthood, like you know, you got the Opus Dei and so forth. That's an interesting movie, so forth. But anyways,
Yeah.
all right. So we're gonna be efficient on time. We're gonna be getting things because John's a busy guy. He's got 20,000 kids, so he's definitely
20,036.
yeah. He's very
I found
specific.
some more on the side of the road.
That's awesome, man. Hey, man, collect that paycheck.
Yeah.
So John introduced me to more depth about who's the devil, and I'll be honest. Before we get into the Apocalypse of Adam, when I said who's the devil, starting this, it was more of like who is the devil. Like I thought I know who the devil is. We talk about
Yeah.
Lucifer, like you heard this these other episodes in the podcast, and like what is he like and all this stuff. But this is taking a turn towards like no, who is the devil?
Yeah.
It's
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 very
it's
in depth. It's a
it,
long process, not just who, but like what and why.
Right. It's almost like keep the eye on the ball while these cups are kind of going around, right? You know, it's very interesting. So I'm going to read a bit of the Apocalypse of Adam, and then I do have questions that I want to ask you, John. But again, I'm going to follow your lead on some things that you're going to share. So here's one to read a little bit. It's a little bit long, so bear with me. So this is from the Apocalypse of Adam. Once again, for the third time, the illuminator of knowledge will pass by in great glory, in order to leave something of the seed of Noah and the sons of Harn and Japheth to leave for himself fruit-bearing trees, and he will redeem their souls from the day of death. For the whole creation that came from the dead earth will be under authority of death. But those who reflect upon the knowledge of the eternal God in their hearts will not perish, for they have not received spirit from this kingdom alone, but they have received it from a blank eternal angel, blank illuminator, blank will come upon blank that is dead, blank of Seth, and he will perform signs and wonders in the order to scorn the powers of and their ruler. I'm gonna call that a little bit of a footnote, right? And we can all think about who that may be. And then this is interesting. Then the God of the powers will be disturbed, saying, "What is the power of this man who is higher than we?" Then he will arouse a great wrath against that man, and the glory will withdraw and dwell in holy houses, which it has chosen for itself, and the powers will not see it with their eyes, nor will they see the illuminator either. Then they will punish the flesh of the man upon whom the Holy Spirit came. Then the angels and all the generations of the powers will use the name in error, asking, where did the error, come from? Or where did the words of deception, which all the powers have failed to discover them, come from? And I'm going to stop right there. There's more to it, but my thoughts a bit. It sounds kind of like a prophecy of Christ.
Yeah, a
I
little
mean,
bit.
what's your thoughts on that so far? What I read,
You nailed it. It does kind of sound like a prophecy of Christ.
right? You know, like where have this powers come? Like who is this person? It's almost like
Hmm.
this person is undetected. This person of, I guess, freedom, right?
Yeah.
And so forth. So, anyways, I'll continue a little bit on. And I saw three men before me whose likeness I was able to recognize, since they were not the powers of the God who had created us. They surpassed blank glory and blank men, blank, saying to me, arise, Adam, from the sleep of death, and hear about the Aeon and the seed of that man whom life has come, who came from you and from Eve your wife. When I heard these words from the great men who were standing before me, then we sighed, I and Eve in our hearts. And the Lord, the God who had created me, or us, stood before us. He said, Adam, why are you both sighing in your hearts? Do you not know that I am the God who created you? And I breathe into you the spirit of life as a living soul. Then the darkness came upon our eyes. Then the God who created us created a son for himself, from himself and Eve. That is interesting.
Hmm.
Your mother. I knew sweet desire for your mother, for blank in the thought of blank. I knew a sweet desire for your mother. Then vigor of our eternal knowledge was destroyed in us, and weakness pursued us. Therefore, the days of our life became few. For I knew that I had come under the authority of death. Now that that is interesting, right? Is that you got Eve sharing this stuff, right? And you got God having this wrath upon this being. I suppose it could be Christ. There's more to it. And then now there's like this interpretation. Tell me if I'm wrong. That did God again? And I'm not talking about. I'm not trying blasphemous. Like there's this all discussion. But did God have relations with Eve?
I mean that was never really mentioned in the Bible at all in any way, form, or another. But technically, this is a book that was part of the Bible that was removed. As are There are several that are like that. There are several books in the Bible that were in there, but the powers that be determined that it wasn't necessary for them to be in there. It was, and it's like who gets to decide that? I
Right.
feel like God is the only one who gets to decide what is allowed or should be allowed in the Bible. No man should ever have the ability to say anything like that at all. Um,
Right.
but that I really I don't think so.
Okay.
Because if God were to be having relations with Eve, it would have created in another like holy being, like Christ. It would have been a Christ-like being,
Mhm.
unless the God that they're saying, the God that is not the God that was worshipped, not the God that we know today, had relations with Eve, and that created maybe something evil,
Well, you had both.
or it
Yeah.
created another God like entity. Because if
Well,
you think about it, if a god has a baby, that thing's going to be a demigod, especially if it's going to be with a human being. If
right.
somebody create if that god created a thing that it was, it's very potential that he just created another god, or because of the atrocities that happened, it created like, let's just use this for an example. Like they say that to bring forth great evil, there has to be some form of tragedy, atrocity, or something like that. So if it was like a rape type situation, it could have created an ultimate evil. It could have been where the devil came from. If this was, a viable situation, because if you think about it, if it was that, it could have created evil, because evil stems from evil. And it's all theory.
Yeah, for sure. And
I
so,
threw out several there, and if any of them are plausible, or each and every one of them could be plausible, but
well,
if it's
here's the thing.
viable.
Here's the thing too, is one of the things that when Eve shared with Adam that they were higher than the God who created them.
Hmm.
What does that mean? It's because I remember when he pitched this to me to read or listen to the Apocalypse of Adam. I came across that. And I've heard this here before, even we met, about how the God in the Old Testament is not the same as the God in the New Testament.
Yeah.
And it's like supposedly that we were. This is gonna sound so freaking Scientology in a way, but no more in the spiritual realm. Is that we were higher than this being, and that it broke us into two people, a man and a woman.
Hmm.
It almost feels like it's like that. I don't know if you saw the new Matrix movie.
I did.
Yeah, and how you had the what's it, Neil Patrick Harris's character is like,
Hmm.
I can't have you guys too close, but it was enough to power what I
Yeah.
want to do and
Yeah.
have what I need. And so it's almost like, so what is this God supposed out of many the false God of the Old Testament? I don't know. It's almost mind blowing to kind of understand, but at the same time, the other part of it too is like there's also a lot of prophecies of Christ, and maybe that's separate from that God that we thought is God, who's actually maybe the devil, separated from these prophecies are coming from another entity that is the true God, right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
part
that's
of,
very possible.
I mean, I'm just saying it's a mind blowing thing. But anyways, so that's what I wanted to share on that. So what's your thoughts on that theory that the God of the Old Testament, just reading some of the stuff already, is actually not the true God of Christ, right?
I will tell you, the God of the Old Testament is not the God of today, because the God of the Old Testament was a God of wrath.
Hmm.
It was a very swift and severe God. If you can just read the Old Testament. I don't even need to get into stories. There was a lot that happened back then
Oh,
to
though, I
show
mean,
that this God, yeah.
there was a lot of death, murder. There was a lot of
Mhm.
all this stuff. But then you kind of think too, is like, it's almost like I have to relook at the stories like with Moses. Was that the
Mhm.
God of the bad God, or is that the true God that let him out? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, could it all be that the God that we have, that we look at as the Christian God, or whoever the entity is, when you look back on these, could this all be a let's say, because this all started to stem around when confusion started happening with the Bible around the times of the Crusades, which the powers that be said that they wanted to be the ultimate powers, or
Mhm.
be the only ones that had the information, or the ability to read it, or the ability to distribute or speak or come across it or even look at it. So that happened around there. Could it be that during that period of time there was a great deceiver that took hand and place in the situation and controlled the information coming out so that they could deceive us from who the true God is?
Mhm.
So that they could have that, so that removing books of the Bible, doing this and that and the third, and you think about it, it could very well be that the deceiver, that the true devil, has turned God into something that it works for his narrative too. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds very blasphemous, but I mean,
No, it's not.
your
It's
your
not.
your your search, it's hard to do. Your search for God, and in God in your heart, is the God of creation, the God that created. That's the best way to look at it. The God that created you and that loved you, and who allowed his son to take a sacrifice for him, for us, an ultimate sacrifice for us. That's the God that you should worship. I don't know if that's the God of the Bible. I'll be honest with you. It
Right.
could be. I could be completely wrong, but I don't need to worship the Bible or what's in the Bible to have a relationship with God,
Right. No, absolutely.
because I don't trust the Bible. I don't. And I'll be honest with you, as a devout Christian man, I do not trust the Bible. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't or anybody else shouldn't. I'm just saying that you can look at what happens in our world now, and
Mhm.
what has been happening since the dawn of history and documentation is that people will control information for their own power or for their gain. And think about how many empires, how many people, how many singular individuals, how many wars and all these things have changed the course of Christianity from the dawn of Christ themselves.
You know what's funny?
It's endless.
I just had a thought. What if it's like the god of Ares or the god of war?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
he's off the treasure, right? So
yeah.
I'll read a little bit.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. And I was just gonna say, trusting the Bible is really hard to do, especially as someone who is a man of science and religion. You have to look at the information that the Bible gives and take it with a grain of salt, going, "This has been changed." Most likely, there is a very high chance that the information that we read in the Bible today is not the information that's even in the Bible.
Well,
It
and
could
it's
be something
yeah,
completely different because at one point in time, no one was allowed to read it except
right.
for one person.
Which is the priest, which they pretty much the
Yeah.
authority of God. I mean, we know
And
who we're
at
God.
that time, how do we know that when they did that whole Bible roundup during the Crusades and everything like that, and they went through, how do we know that the Bibles that were given back to the people that were released to the worlds after that were even the same Bible? No one is ever going to know because there was a privileged people that were able, and I do mean able to read
Right,
scripts.
right,
And I don't know what it says, man. I don't know if it's changed. I don't know if it's to fit the narrative. I don't know if they put the Bible stories in there so that it would make more sense or that people would be more gullible for it. But you have to be careful, and that's what a lot of people, I know that there's a lot of human people out there that share my same view about being able to trust the Bible, and that doesn't mean that the Christian God is the wrong God or that the Bible is wrong. It means that there's a possibility that it has been perversed and changed. And
right,
that's why your relationship with God is your own, not based on what is read to you.
right. No, exactly, and it's all about relationship too. Is what I think is important for people. It's, we don't replace relationship with religion. It's a one-sided deal, and you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
I really mean that. And it's like it says there's this line in this movie with that conclave. We're talking about that. How it's like, let's pray for a pope who sins and asks forgiveness, and that they have uncertainty because uncertainty goes hand in hand with faith.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really beautiful, and it's cool because I love certainty. I'm a person who plans. I like to do
Yeah.
things. I have things set schedule, and it drives me nuts when things break. I'm like, God dang it, I can't do. But I thought that was beautifully said. That and I think that's a great thought. That's where your relationship has, like with you,
That's where
yeah,
faith comes into play.
yeah. If you're certain, where's the faith go, right?
Yeah.
Type of thing. So I'm gonna read a little bit more on this. This is pretty interesting. I think you might find it interesting if I get this right. For rain showers of God the Almighty, who will be poured forth, so that He might destroy all the flesh of God the Almighty. Again, I'm reading from the Gnostic here, so that
Hmm.
He might destroy all flesh from the earth on account of the things that it seeks after, along those from the seed of the man who passed the life of the knowledge which came from me and Eve. I believe this is Adam talking, your mother. It is actually. For they were strangers to him. Afterwards, great angels will come up on high clouds who will bring these men into the place where the spirit of life dwells, blank glory, blank there, blank come from the heaven to earth. Then the whole multitude of flesh will be left behind in the waters. Then God will rest from his wrath, and he will cast out power upon the waters, and he will give power to the sons and their wives by the means of the ark, which with animals, whichever he pleased. Now this is interesting because this is coming from Adam. It's almost like a prophecy, right? You know,
Yeah.
and so which pleased, and the birds in heaven which he called and released upon the earth. And God will say to Noah, whom the generations will call. Now that I did pull this up, and I'm going to butcher this name. Deucalion, Deucalion, behold, I have protected you in the ark, along with your wife and your sons and their wives and their animals and the birds of heaven, which you called and released upon the earth. Therefore, I will give you the earth to you. I'm going to move on forward because that's kind of redundant. Then, then they will become as the cloud of the great light. These men will come who have been cast forth from knowledge of the great aeons and the angels. They will stand before Noah and the eons, and God will say to Noah, Why have you departed from what I told you? You have created another generation so that you might scorn my power. Then Noah will say, I shall testify before your might that the generation of these men did not come from me, nor from my sons, blank knowledge. And he, blank, those men will bring them into their proper land and build them holy dwelling place. And they will be called by that name and dwell there 600 years in the knowledge of impersonal imperishability. That's a word. And the
Hmm.
angels of the great light will dwell within them. No foul deed will dwell in their hearts, but only the knowledge of God. There's a little bit of mixture here. So I'm going to back up a little bit. It's almost like, and tell me if I'm wrong, that, you know, God, God, it's almost hard because it's like you got two gods playing here, right? It's like
Yeah.
playing chess. And then because you got God calling out Noah saying, dude, why have you departed what I told you what to do? But you have
Hmm.
these angels and these other beings come and telling them something different, right? And it's almost like, okay, what's going on? Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? And the other interesting, okay, so the other interesting thing I want to read out. So like that word I was telling you what decolon, that word that God says, right? I
Yeah.
pulled up a definition. I thought this is interesting, and forgive me if I'm bouncing a bit. Who is decolon? So a definition of this is in Greek mythology, decolon is the son of Prometheus,
Hmm.
who, along with his wife Pyra, survived a great flood sent by Zeus and repopulated the world by throwing stones over their shoulders, which transformed into humans. And here's a little bit more about the story with Deucalion's story. The flood, Zeus, angered by humanity's wickedness, decided to destroy them with the flood. Survival. Prometheus, who was a benefactor of mankind, warned his son Deucalion, who then built an ark or chest, depending on the version, to survive the flood with his wife Pyra, repopulating the world. After the flood subsided, Deucalion and Pyra sought guidance on how to repopulate the world. The oracle advice. They consulted an oracle who instructed them to throw the bones of their mother over their shoulders. Interpretation to Kolan and Pyra interpreted this to being to being the stones of the earth. The mother should be thrown, and they did so. Creation of humans. The stones thrown by Decolan became men, and those thrown by Pyra became women, thus renewing the human race. Now that is effing interesting, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, so that was a lot. So what are your so I mean, just kind of go more into like who's what, who's who.
It's an adaptation of the same stories. I mean, if there's several adaptations, if you look at different religious texts that are very similar to it, because they all come around and go back to the fact that we had a great flood, and they each have their own way, which they're each god did something different to someone who was in there, whether it was Noah or anybody else that like that out there. They have their adaptation, so it's just another adaptation of that. It's just the Greek mythology version.
Yeah, like kind of taking like you kind of think of
I'm
taking
Yeah,
like is it more like the who came first, the chicken and the egg? You think
yeah,
the Greeks probably took something from the Jews, you would say in that
or the
story?
other way around. Who knows? We don't
That's
know.
true. I
We
mean,
don't
well,
know.
same with
I
the
just
Samaritan.
think, I personally think that each god is a version of the true God. It's just been slightly changed and perversed because someone somewhere started writing about that. The Greeks did, the Hindus did, the Muslims did, and it goes all the way down. There, at some point, there was a person who wrote a text about an almighty being and gave the foundation for the religion, and they're all very similar.
Yeah, and
So I think getting to the truth behind it of what is the actual like down to earth portion of what to listen to is the hard part,
yeah, yeah,
because they're all similar in ways. They all are different culturally, but they all have the same message.
yeah, exactly. And here's the interesting thing too. Like when God was angered about Noah, like they talk about this illuminator, right? That Noah had this visit with. So like who is this illuminator of knowledge, the
Hmm.
eternal angel who is to show signs and wonders to provoke God, right? It's almost like, that's what God
Lucifer.
really?
The illuminator, the bringer of light.
Illumination.
The morning star?
Hmm.
The illuminator?
Interesting. Interesting. I didn't think about that.
A
Surprising I didn't think
man
about
who
that.
has all power, all knowledge, who is equal with God in ways. Even the Bible said it.
And
But
by
he's
yeah,
always been called. He has always been called the bearer of light, the morning star.
by the way, we endorse Papa Perpetual 5, by the way.
God, Ghost, their new album's great. I was so blown away by
That's
it.
good. No, I'm talking about his Pope, by the way. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, everybody, everybody.
Tobias for Pope.
That's right. Everybody, go storm the Vatican and have your own conclave and have Papa Perpetuus the Fifth be Pope. That'd be great. Awesome. Yeah.
Have fun with Vatican Secret Service at your front door tomorrow, Christopher.
He sounds like the worst than Green Beret. Pretty okay. Gotcha. Okay, we'll take that. All right.
Significantly, they have no rules.
So got it. Fair because they're technically their own country. They're pretty much immune.
Yeah, yeah.
So the other part is too was God seems threatened by this entity, which you already called out, saying, "Hey, it's Lucifer, right?" And is wanting to create wrath on humanity. It's like, "Hey, I'm pissed you were having talking." It's almost like a jealous girlfriend or jealous wife.
Hmm.
What the hell? I'm gonna kill this bitch. Like I'm gonna kill you and you're gonna suffer from it. And then the punish of the flesh of the man upon whom the Holy Spirit came. Who is he? Trying to read my question here. The punish of the flesh of the man upon the Holy Spirit came. Who is he? I guess we can call that Christ. I mean, we can call it, the fourth coming of Christ. I'm assuming
Yeah,
so, right? Because the Holy Spirit came upon the disciples until Christ's resurrection when he visited.
exactly. Yeah, and gave them the abilities to perform miracles like he.
Yeah, and here's something I'm going to read here too.
I didn't
Actually,
know you
no,
could read.
yeah, yeah, no, actually, no, actually ended that. That's all I got on there. Um, so there, by the way, everybody, I know it's kind of quick and fast, but there's a lot of information you should read because this is an example of details of one out of many books out there in the Gnostic world um, regarding who God is. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying that we're right. I'm not saying that we are you know that we have facts on it, but I think it's really important to have an open opinion, an open understanding to make sure
it's
that we
important to educate.
yeah. And at the end, it's all about it's all about at the end of the day, it's all about faith, right? No matter
Yeah,
what even science has faith, right? They have faith when they do experiments, they're having faith that it'll work, type of thing. But like I said, this apocalypse of Adam, to sum it up in my mind, again, is more like the God created Adam and Eve that was a higher entity somehow was able to split them in two. Like it's almost like taking like an atom and splitting and making your own weapon. Maybe
hmm,
that's the best analogy, but it's the wrong analogy. We know we can control it, but we also know how powerful it is, so we have to contain this power.
yep.
Is that saying we're higher than God? No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that the God that pulled us out of this other realm, or you want to call it, planets here on Earth, for what reason? I have no idea. I have no idea why would supposedly this God of the Old Testament would split us. Is it out of jealousy? Is it because there is to harness our own power for their own benefit? What does that mean? What does that look like? What do you think, John?
I think that we were created perfectly. It even says in the Bible that Adam was created first and then Eve was taken from him, created afterwards. He was probably created as a complete equal to God to be like a companion because what he was supposed to be a companion.
Mm,
And but maybe it's just like kind of looking at the conscious mind. If we use 100% of our mind, if we had the ability to do that, there's no stopping what we could possibly do. You even look at people who use a higher percentage as the average person of their brain, like Stephen Hawking's. And who was that one kid that's like the smartest person in the world? I can't remember his name right now, but they did like a percentage test, and he was only using 10% more than what the average human being can, and he's a
That, is that
super
that
genius.
is that blonde haired kid who talked about
I
portals and
yeah,
everything? Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah, and
smart kid. Yeah,
he only uses 10% more of his brain capacity than what an average human being does. Not a smart human being or a great human being or a highly intelligent, average
right.
human. So your average person just 10% more, which is not that 10% of something is really not that much. So maybe creating Eve was creating another equal to him and removed. You think about it. If I remove your kidney, you have another one, but your body is never going to be running at 100%,
Mm,
as you've noticed. And
right, right.
yeah,
So,
you missed
no,
the joke.
no, I did no. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Did you take kidney for myself?
Maybe.
Mother, no wonder I'm pissing blood all day.
Yeah.
Uh, that's how
You
oblivious
didn't
I am.
notice all the ice in your bathtub? That was weird. It wasn't didn't seem weird to you?
I don't know. I don't question things anymore. I take it upon faith.
Yeah.
So um, so here's my question to you, or no, not a question. You said you have something you want to share. Tell me if it connects with it. Something you said that was going to be kind of
Actually,
supposedly.
you covered it already,
Oh,
and
I'm
it was
sorry.
it was
I'm
no, it was
sorry.
actually no, you nailed it. And it was gonna wrap up back to the whole thing that was going on with the Pope too. But in to kind of sum up how I was going to bring it is we went over this. It was talking about the difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God that we worship today.
Right.
We don't. I mean, we don't worship a God of wrath. That we don't. We're not getting hit by plagues. We're not getting hit by end of the world. I mean, everybody thinks we are. Every time we have something that normally happens in the world now, it's the end of the fucking world.
Oh, every time. Y2K.
Yeah,
End of the world. I mean, yeah. You
yeah.
were like you were like 2 years old at the time.
I remember Y2K. I remember watching the guy that lived by the Paulsbo McDonald's build an entire bunker underneath his house in preparation for it.
Hey, better safe than sorry, man. I'm a
Yeah,
just in case guy too, just like you are. Just in
yeah,
case. Just in
yep.
case.
But it really comes down to trying to, and I know that we've given a lot more questions than answers, and that's because
Right.
we have a lot more questions than answers. I don't have answers for this. I can't say that I do. I can say that I have information that maybe will lead to one day to answers, or I may never get those answers until the day I die. Who knows? But what I do know, and kind of coming back to the whole point of the who is the devil, is the devil is you, the devil is me, the devil is all of us. We are all capable of being the devil.
Right.
It's whether or not we let that happen. I think there is a true ultimate evil, but I don't think he is the what is constantly behind all evil, like the little devil on your shoulder making you do bad things. I think that when it comes down to it, the devil was manifested by us, by
And
evil doings.
and
It's very possible that the devil never existed until we conjured it with
you mean
evil.
we create an excuse?
I don't even think it's just an excuse, but
Okay.
yes, I do believe that there is evil, an evil entity in the world because I've seen true evil. I've seen real evil. I've experienced it, and a lot of people have experienced it. You see it happen on TV all the time, and I believe that those are stemmed from absolute evil.
Right.
But I do believe that the devil is an entity that is something that we will never truly understand. But I also believe that is an excuse for people to do bad things and just say the devil made me do it.
Agreed. And honestly too, I would say this, guys, I know this seemed a little shorter than usual, but honestly, it's not to make this a short episode. It's to share small bits from Gnostic Gospels, and there's tons out there, which we encourage you guys to really dig and read because it is a lot of information. I'm not saying take it by
And
faith.
these
It's
aren't
a
just things that
lot.
somebody just made up. These are texts that are held
Yeah.
in the Vatican.
Yeah.
These are texts that they
Exactly.
chose to keep out of the Bible, but they have them. They have them
Exactly.
in the Vatican. They exist. They're real things, and they'll tell you they're real. But if you ask to see them, you can't. And even if you did, you wouldn't be able to read it anyways.
Well, it's also going back to the narrative. What kind of narrative you want to create, right?
You don't want people to get confused or to have ultimate all the knowledge.
You don't want people to
You
think for
don't want people to
themselves.
have all knowledge. You
Well,
don't want to.
you
You
don't
want
want
to
people
have them
yeah.
exactly.
You don't want people to
You
think for
want them.
themselves.
Mhm.
I
You
mean,
want them to be docile. You want them to rely on you for things. And, it comes down to like the Pope. You rely on the Pope to be the voice of God.
yeah,
So he says. Um, you rely on the president to control and take care of your country. You
right.
rely on your governor to do this. You rely on your waste management to take your garbage. You rely on the power company to give you power. We all rely on somebody else to do things for us because we lack the knowledge and capability to do them for ourselves.
No,
And that's the
agreed.
same thing with religion. As long as we lack the knowledge and capability of ultimate knowledge of religion, of the true God, of Christ, of the Antichrist, of the devil, we will rely on someone else to tell us how to believe.
Agree.
And that's where I'm here to tell you that you have to believe how you believe, and your relationship with God has to be your own. Because if you allow your relationship with God to be what your pastor tells you what to do, you're not doing it right. If
It-
you allow your relationship with God to be what your parents told you what to do, you're not doing it right. It has to
right.
be yourself, and you have to find the knowledge yourself. Otherwise, it's not a relationship. Someone else is thinking for you.
Right, right, and I agree 100%. It's almost like when Paul talks about, or one of the disciples in the New Testament, test the spirits, test the leadership. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. It's not to be disrespectful. It's test the leadership. And it's almost funny. I almost thought, I tell people it's like, oh, Christianity conquered Rome. Did it?
Eh,
Did
yeah,
it?
exactly.
No, no.
Did
After
it?
years later, did
Yeah.
it? It evolved. It evolved.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Who cares? It's about power.
Knowledge is power. So what
We'll
is
convert to
ignorance?
whatever is going to make you obedient and say you are right, and we're going to
Mhm.
create a system behind it to control the narrative.
Think
To
about the most
yeah,
powerful people in the world, and like let's just use people like like let's use the Wolf of Wall Street as an example.
Jordan Belfort's my hero.
Someone who had a lot of knowledge about something, and what
Right.
did that end up with? Power. What
Yeah.
happens if you don't have knowledge? Ignorance is weakness. So as long as we are kept ignorant, we are weak to the people who
Right.
have the knowledge above
Right.
us and who are more. That makes them stronger,
Right.
more powerful,
Right.
richer, and just all around better than us. So it's just like the title, the Bound to Truth. The truth is the knowledge behind what we are questioning. The truth is not, red is red and blue is blue. It's like, you kind of got to get to the truth behind why is red red. There's reasons. There's different types of light wavelengths and
Right.
blah 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 blah. There's a truth behind why red is red
Right.
and why blue is blue.
Right.
There's a truth behind religion. There's a truth behind our government. There's a truth behind deceivers. There's a truth behind evil, paranormal, aliens. There's a truth behind it all. But keeping the people ignorant makes them less powerful than the people who know.
Exactly. No.
Because the people who
Exactly.
know are in control, and the people who don't know are
Well,
they're mental slaves as well as physical as well
well,
too.
it's amazing because, like I said, when I first came up with the subject, who's the devil? It was almost like asking the. It was my intent was asking the wrong question. It was a right worded question with the wrong
Hmm.
intent.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say wrong intent. The intent, my intent was different, and
It's
it
more
had
like who, what, and why is the devil.
yeah, exactly. And I think you nailed it. Everybody can be the
Mhm.
devil. The spirits can be the devil. And it's almost like we're gonna put, it's like we're gonna put blame and say the devil maybe do like you said, or this maybe, or this person maybe do it. I was a slave in this. I wasn't, it's like almost like I committed a crime
And
because
the
my
reason
parents
why
put
is
me bad,
because
yeah.
exactly, and that
Yeah.
is weakness. You
Yeah.
committed a crime because you lack the knowledge to be capable to not do that. You committed rape because you were a weak individual. You created
Yeah.
murder. You committed murder in with malice intent because you were a weak individual. And those
Right.
people are lacking knowledge, whether it's something wrong in their brain that
Right.
that they don't have the knowledge of the proper emotional control or physical control to just not do that.
Right.
So using the devil made me do it. Charles Manson did this because the devil, because of Satan, and what it
Yeah.
was. That the reason why Charles Manson was such a thorn in the side of everything is because he was actually a pretty intelligent individual, but he
Oh
was
yeah, absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, he was
But
he
he was,
was yeah.
and he used the whole Satan worshiping thing as a ploy. He used it as an excuse. He used it to get attention, to get followers, to get people to do that. Same with a lot of other crazy people. They are more knowledgeable about something than others, so they use that as their advantage
Yeah.
on the weak-minded people to get followers.
It's
It's
sad.
the same thing. I'm not saying that that's what's happening with religion, but I'm saying that's what has happened with religion.
Oh,
And
well
it's
anywhere.
like
Yeah.
trying to find a true revival in any form of Christianity, like dealing with like the whole Billy Graham revival and things like that. Billy Graham was trying to give people the knowledge of God,
He
the
is a hell of
knowledge
a
of the
yeah.
Christian Lord.
Yeah.
He was trying to do that for a revival because it makes you, because together we are stronger. Alone we are not, we you don't do very good. But
Yeah.
the knowledge of knowing what evil is, who evil is, what evil intentions are, is where we lack, which makes us ignorant, which makes us weaker than the people who have that knowledge and who are controlling everything and controlling the narrative of who the devil is, why he does what he does. So the devil are people with evil intents. The devil, I believe, are people with evil intents, and the devil is a manifestation of centuries upon centuries of evil intent coming
Yeah.
from powerful people.
I agree.
Who, all those powerful people, you even look down on history. Powerful people prey on weaker people. The reason that they're powerful is because you haven't run into somebody who is smarter or stronger than them.
Yeah.
And what happens when you do? What happens when you run into somebody who has that ultimate power? What happens when you run into that David and Goliath situation? You run into that big giant that looks so scary, but there's somebody who just knows a little bit more and has that little bit more faith and things like that. Is you knock them down a peg,
Yeah.
and that person is replaced. It's the same thing like when you have a CEO of a company, you don't want the most weak-minded employee to be running your company unless you know you're the Sonic at Paulsville. Um, then you want the smartest person, the person who carries the most I would like to say intimidation on their shoulders as well, because you don't want a weak looking person in a position of power, because if you have somebody who looks like that, how are you going to respect them?
Yeah.
It's like going back to Joe Biden. How could you have ever looked at him and respected him as a president? He was weak. He was frail. He was and you look down the history of some other president. We haven't always had the strongest, best looking, greatest presidents, but when you do look at it, you we do have a lot of top tier individuals
Yeah.
who looked the part. Like JFK definitely looked the part. Like
Yeah.
Barack Obama definitely looked the part.
Right.
And you get down there, like you think about somebody like George Washington, who that guy liked to fist fight for fun. Like that's a guy, that's a leader because he's stronger in
Yeah.
mentally and physically. And if we do not mentally and physically and spiritually build ourselves up and get stronger, the people who are already there with the mental intent, who have the knowledge, the ultimate knowledge of the evils of the world and of the good, and who know the insides about the things that we're questioning, we will never be able to stand against them and be able to hold ourselves up in the great battle that will be coming. That battle is the battle of good and evil, which we live through every day, and it gets worse
Right.
every single day. It is not getting
Yes.
better. The good is not winning right now.
It, it's
Good
it's
is not
it's
winning. And
it
I
is
know that
tough.
you
Yeah.
can go to your church, and your church is good, because I go to a church. I'm not even going to say the name. I don't want any flack to come back on this church because it's a great church and the pastor is a great person. But this church is trying to start a new revival, and they're doing a good job. And it's not easy because they are fighting against a world that is full of evil people, of evil intent, of mind controlling, my brainwashing information that is constantly flooding the world, making it more evil. And this is nothing against anybody who does these things, because I know every time somebody brings up this kind of crap, it gets canceled. But whatever. But honestly, I don't care. Cancel me. You ain't gonna do shit to me. Um, Sex workers,
Mhm.
pornography, OnlyFans,
Mm.
these, what are those fucking, not cosplay, because that's just different. What are those fucking girls that there's a name for them that like dress up and try to look as young as possible? There's a name for it.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a name for it somewhere, but they're all over the
And I'm
face.
glad I don't know what it
They're
is.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, and I heard somebody talking about it on a podcast the other day that I was listening to, and she said a name. There's an actual like categorized name for these girls that try to look, or these women, these grown ass women that try to look like girls, like
Wow.
12, 13-year-old girls, 10, and even younger than that. They go out of their way to look that way to attract a perverse audience. That's evil. Those people are they're not evil, but they're doing something with evil intent.
Right.
They know that by doing that, that they are preying on people who have, I don't know if this is a word, but pedophilic, I'm creating it today, pedophilic intent, if that's
Yeah.
a word, but pedophiles, people who are
Right.
pedophiles and who are attracted to those types of people. They are doing that with the intent, knowing that they are going to grasp that audience and make money off of them. That's evil intent.
Yeah.
That is a seed. That is sowing a seed of evil in the world. And more people are doing that. And it's becoming more and more acceptable. So much so that there's a whole fucking community called MAP, minor attracted person, or MAP for short. That is a real thing that the LGB, I don't know the rest of the
No, I
letters,
know. I
that
know.
their
I've heard.
community,
I've
they
heard
were
about that.
trying to
Yeah.
endorse, saying that MAP, they deserve to be recognized too.
I've.
Now it didn't get legs because
Yeah,
they're,
but I
I'm not saying
heard.
everybody in those communities in the LGB, and excuse me for not knowing the rest of it. I don't know, and I don't care. I don't care about
LGBTQ
somebody's
plus.
sexual.
I don't know why
Yeah,
I know
I
that,
don't
but I
care.
do.
I don't care about people's sexuality. Your
Yeah.
sexuality is your own. I don't give a shit. I don't care whether
Right.
you're anything. I don't. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect my life. I don't care. Be you. Be who you are. But going back to it, is they were trying to be accepted and calling themselves, oh no, it's not, you're not, we're not pedophiles, we're minor attracted people. That is sowing a seed of evil. Those people are
Yeah.
have evil intent to do evil things to harm people, and they're trying to make it more acceptable. That is sowing a seed of evil. The liars that are in our government are sowing seeds of evil.
Right.
People who murder are sowing seeds of evil. The whole Russia versus Ukraine, that is sowing a seed of evil. That is putting evil in people's hearts. That is making people fight against other people. The Palestinians versus the Israelis and things like that. The versus Israel and all that kind of stuff. Palestine versus Israel. That is sowing a seed of evil. It is dividing our country. War and hate is dividing and sowing a seed of evil. And that is the stuff that we're fighting against as a Christian audience. And we are
Right.
fighting against a world that is more focused on evil and promoting evil than we are focused on trying to fix the problem, which is the evil. We're just accepting it and going along with it and allowing people to do these weird things where they're dressing like like underage girls and attracting pedophiles for money, because they're like, oh, what's the harm it's going to do? They're going to try to find it anyways. I might as well get money for it. That's evil. That
Yeah.
shit's evil.
I
And
know. No, I agree. I agree.
so
And everything.
the devil is us and our
Well, well,
intent.
well. And the thing is, the devil is chaotic by nature,
Hmm.
but yet it feeds the same beast.
Yep.
And if that makes any sense. And here's the thing, too, before we end this podcast, what I want to say to everybody is this is not saying that replace your faith with knowledge. Gnostic goes dramatically where people say it's all about knowledge saving you. And then you got the faith where it says it's all
Fortify
about
your
faith.
faith with knowledge.
Exactly. They go hand in hand. They should never be separate. It's not saying you shouldn't question things. I think it's important to question things because, like, at the end of the day, I'm never gonna have all the answers. John's not gonna have all the answers.
No.
But it's important to really educate yourself on why you believe in what you believe at the end of the day. And
And
honestly,
if
yeah,
you just blindly believe things and you go off of faith, that's kind of ignorant.
yeah,
Because if, and I've run into a lot of Christians who will just say, I believe in God because I believe in God. But why do you believe in God? Tell me
right,
why.
right.
And they don't have a reason. Oh, because my parents raised me to believe that. That is not
Well,
a strong faith.
well, it's almost like saying
I
it's almost
promise you,
it's
those
yeah.
are the type of people that when they have a gun to their head at the end of the world, when they're asked, "Do you believe in Christ?" They're gonna fail.
Well,
They're gonna say no. They're gonna deny the Lord three times because
right.
they're just going off of what somebody told them to believe.
Well,
Believe
it,
it for yourself.
it's almost like if you were saying, well, it's almost like you're saying, well, I love Sophia. Well, why do you love Sophia? In
I
fact,
could give
I
you
just
a mile long list
yeah,
that would
but
take
you're
the
not saying
rest
I
of
just
this
love her.
day.
I just love her. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no reason behind it. Okay,
There's
but
reasons. There
there's
really
reasons,
are.
and
Yeah.
it's
And I can give
because
you the reasons behind those reasons
yeah,
too.
and but you know what? That's the same thing with God. There's a relationship aspect.
Hmm.
It's about the
And the
relationship
people who
piece.
go into go into faith and religion, any religion, not just Christianity, any religion, with no backing behind it. Oh, why are you agnostic? Oh, because I am. Why are you a Satanist? Well, because I am. Why are you Muslim? Because I am. Why are you Buddhist? Because I am. If you don't have a real reason behind it, and I can't sit down and have a conversation with you about what led you to religion, any religion, then that's not who you are. That's not what somebody has told you to believe, or it was the easy way.
Well, it's
It was
almost like
easy
they
for
said
you. Because
biblically,
the
throw pearls
Bible
to
even
swine.
says, yeah, the Bible even says that being a Christian is will not be easy.
Yeah,
And it won't be. And
it,
it's not an easy thing.
the road is narrow.
Yeah.
The road is
It
narrow.
is persecution. It is all kinds of things, and it's not easy. But the whole point of this is to let the world know that knowledge in religion is powerful because the people who had knowledge over religion are the people who control the world and who changed the narrative of
Well,
Christianity, who changed the
and
narrative.
I
And those
think
people, you
yeah,
don't want to let them do it again.
and I think those
You
I
don't
think
want to be the person who doesn't understand when somebody else comes into power saying, I have all the answers. You're like, no, that's not right. You want to be able to say, no, that's not right.
right.
Instead of, oh, yeah, that must be right. Those people are going to be what's going to be the reverse revival. That's how
Well,
you end up with
well,
another crusade.
yeah, and exactly because like kind of going back, it's like it's you don't want to be we're just blinded by faith because the people in the power know this knowledge and they're just going to create their own narrative. I mean,
Yeah.
again, we talk a lot about the Catholic Church. This is not a attack on the Catholic Church.
It's
It's
not
just been
attack on any religion.
it's just been the oldest around, so probably the best example, right? And the church has its flaws. We all know that, and we should have some grace on that.
Yeah.
But again, going back to that question, who's the devil? Everywhere, everywhere. And it's not to condemn ourselves to say we're
No.
evil. No, we're imperfect human beings, and I think the devil is a very who it comes in many forms, right? Just like how the Lord works in mysterious ways, well, so does evil.
Yeah.
And instead of trying, and I think this question that I asked was great because that's not, it's almost evolving. It's like, who was the devil? I'm trying to look for one particular being, and we talk about the
And
pockets
that's
of
not
it,
it.
and we talk about the pockets of Adam, and I know people are like, well, this is kind of deterrent from what you talk about. No, it's giving an example of a possibility of theories, but that's not the point. The point is that is that it could be anybody, just like anybody could be Christ-minded, anybody could be evil-minded,
Yeah.
right? And
Exactly.
so, but that makes any sense. Before we end the podcast, John, anything else to say? Because you had a beautiful manifesto, man. I'm telling you, man, I am pumped about the stuff you're saying, and I love the passion, dude. Anything else?
Yeah. You know what? I think we've come close to wrapping up this series almost. I mean, I definitely want to give the people a little bit more information about, the apocalypse of Adam as much as well as we can. But really, that was kind of like today was a good binder for me to be able to tell people, in my opinion, that the devil is not one singular individual. I do believe that there is an ultimate evil, an individual that reaps the seeds that we sow of evil and benefits from them completely. But I don't believe that that is entity is behind all evil. It's us. We're the devil. We have the capability of being the devil.
Well, I'll say this, John. If you want to do a part four, I'm going to put it on you
Hmm.
to
I
to
mean, there's
to.
still more information. We can
I'm
still
I'm
go.
curious to get to kind of go because I definitely want to get because honestly I'm lost into it because there's so many different thoughts and theories. But let's ponder where to put a pin on it. Is there gonna be a part four question mark? So
Stay tuned to find out. Will
exactly.
Christopher Lopez take on a
Yes.
part four?
Um, John, pause for a second. Pause for a second. Anyways, sorry about cutting everybody off a little bit. I had to take a tinkle, even though we're about the end of the show, I couldn't hold anymore because the devil was gonna make me piss my shorts or
Yeah,
sweats.
there you go. The devil made him do it.
The devil made me do it. I had to pee.
Um,
Anyways, anyways. So sorry if I messed up the mojo there that was going on, but you know what? that was from the devil because he was trying to destroy everything John was saying by distracting me, make me go pee in my pants almost.
Exactly.
That bad devil, bad devil. Anyways, all right, everybody. Before we go, again, how we talked before, how can you reach us? boundtruth34@gmail.com. That's where you can send your thoughts, comments, want to share your stories, if you want to be on the podcast as a guest, or just to share it anonymously, just to get the word out there. Again, the platform is yours. Also on Buzzsprouts, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. I actually got them all. Holy tamale!
Uh,
I know, thank you. Oh God, no. Wait. Did you say Pornhub?
no, I didn't. I would never say that, but
You
you said
said
it.
it. No, God dang it.
Sorry, the devil made me do it.
Okay. Touche, touche. I had to take a piss. You made a comment. All right, everybody. Everybody, have a great evening. And again, see you on the other side. Good night.